Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of La Verdad Sana. I am your host, Nicole Diaz. I know that I've been a little MIA, and I apologize for that. Life has just been lifing lately. And today's topic is a little bit sensitive for me. I want to speak about my mother, who I love dearly, and her third year anniversary. So I lost My mother passed away 3 years ago on April 9th, 2023. The first year, it was very difficult. I feel like I had hit rock bottom. Um, I was going through a lot in life, and my mom passing away was just kind of like the cherry on top for me. Um, I lost a lot of people in my life. I lost my job. I lost everything that I took for granted at that very moment. Um, and, it was really hard for me to kind of continue going on with life. My relationship with my mother, it was a mixture of sweet and sour. Um, I didn't grow up, I didn't grow up with my mother, um, for a long period of time, or I didn't have my mom growing up from the age of around 6 till the age of 18. Um, So being away from her, from my siblings, it was a little bit hard to build who I was, my character, who I wanted to be. I just felt lost for a really long time. Um, I was surrounded by people who genuinely didn't love me, and unfortunately, I was always shut down. I didn't have an identity. I didn't have like or know who I was, and I think that was hard for me growing up because as we all know, um, throughout those ages, that's where people build their identity, their character, their charisma, and who they truly are. And I was really lost for a really long time. Um, Once I was 18, I saw my mother once again, and our relationship was a bit hard because I knew who she was. I loved her from the bottom of my heart, and I knew that she was my mother. But I didn't know her as a person. It was a bit hard for me to kind of get to know her because my mom was a very loving person. She had a very strong character, but she was very loving, and she was a great person. She was very hardworking. She was very charismatic. Um, she she had a very strong aura. She knew what she wanted in life. She knew who she was, and I think it was living with her again after so many years, or seeing her once again. I kind of felt repressed because everybody knew my mom and everybody loved my mom, but I didn't understand why at that very moment. I was very close-minded. I was very rebellious, and we did get into many arguments because of it, because our attitudes would crash, or I think we were too just afraid to kind of, dip our feet in water in a sense. Um, but little by little, I started learning who my mom was. She started learning who I was. And I think I'm very grateful that I know that I only got to enjoy her for about 5, 6 years, but those 5, 6 years, I got to know who she was as a person, as a mother. Um, as a human, you know, she was very down to earth. For some reason, she didn't like people, but she would attract so many people, you know? Like when she came into a room, people knew she was there, you know? So for me, it was kind of hard to kind of keep up with her aura, um, because I would always kind of like try and live up to a standard or make her proud. But again, I wanted to live life because for so long I was so repressed and I didn't know where to start. Um, in the beginning, our communication wasn't the greatest. And I know that my mom would try to kind of make up for all those years in other ways. She was a great provider. She was, she tried to spoil me and everything. But I think at one point, I kind of took advantage of that. Because I felt like she owed me something. I felt like she owed me for all those years that I didn't have her. And I took it for granted. Um, I think once she kind of, you know, started letting me be who I wanted to be, that's when I started realizing that I'm like, this lady really loves me. But then again, in the back of my mind, I was just being selfish. Um, there was a time where I was so angry at her, so mad at her because I felt like she didn't try enough. But something I've learned now that she's gone is like, our parents don't owe us anything. Honestly, our parents really don't owe us anything. Like, and I started looking back at her story, you know, her parents weren't like the most loving parents, you know. Um, she really didn't have like much growing up or have support from her parents growing up. She lived a sad story. She lost so many people in her life and so many people betrayed her, so many people let her down. And but the one thing I do remember is her still being a good person, you know, still trying to be there for people, you know, being very forgiving. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that she has taught me is how to forgive. Um, for so long, I've held so much hate and resentment towards other family members because of what they did to her, because of what they did to me, because of what they did to my siblings. But I feel like once I learned to forgive, it's like a whole weight lifted off my shoulders. Um, and I think that, like I've said already, our parents don't really owe us much. You know, they brought us into this world, they did what they could, and we should be able to, like, kind of break those chains and continue, you know, and be better for the future generations. I remember growing up, I didn't have a phone. You know, growing up, I was never allowed to have a phone. Because of the people who I live with. But I remember in 2017 when I saw her again and I left to Mexico to see her, I wanted an iPhone. And at that time, the iPhone 8 Plus was like a big thing, you know? And I remember she told me, she was like, okay, mija, I'm gonna go take you by your phone. Okay, I'm gonna take you to buy your phone. And like, I was so excited because I've never owned a phone before, you know, or an iPhone. And I never had anybody to kind of tell me like, okay, like, let's go, I'm gonna buy it for you. So for me, it was like something that impacted my life. And I know maybe it's something material, but her seeing me happy, I know was something big for her. And I actually still have that phone. It kind of broke like 3, 4 times, but it's still surviving somewhere. Um, I remember I wanted a motorcycle and she ended up buying me one for Christmas. She surprised me. Um, the little things that she would do, to see me happy. There was times where like I used to be like a really, really, really like I had a horrible schedule being in Mexico. And um I would wake up really late. Really, really late. Like maybe I want to say 12 or 1 in the afternoon. And she had workers clean the house and everything. And I remember she would tell them like, no, 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 no. No haga ningún ruido. Don't make no fucking noise because I don't want my daughter to wake up in a bad mood. Like, and like I would hear her and like I remember the things that like she would do to keep me comfortable. At times where like she would get mad at me or we would argue and stuff. One thing about my mom, and I don't know if this is everybody's mom, but my mom, she didn't know how to apologize. Her way of apologizing after we got into an argument or whatever the case was making my favorite food. Back home, one of my favorite dishes is actually chilaquiles. So she would like tell me like, mija, vente a comer. Not mija, she would just say like, vente a comer. Ya hice de comer. Púrate, ya está la comida. And she would tell me like, hurry up, the food is ready. It's already served, you know? I would go out of my room and like I would see like she would make me my chilaquiles and with a little piece of steak. Um, and I knew that that was her way of apologizing or that was her way of kind of making peace with the situation. Um, it's just so many things that I can remember about my mom. Like a lot of people respected her. They never called her just her name. Like it was never Marta. It would always be like Doña Marta. It was always the Doña before her name out of respect. Um, and she knew that her name carried a lot of honor and respect, especially where we're from. Um, she always made shit happen. You know, I remember my mom had restaurants. My mom had everything that she ever wanted. She had a beautiful, like, she has a huge, huge house back home, multiple houses. And, like, she would, and mind you, she was in Mexico working. She was not even out here. She would, she was so kind of like Americanized that she would want like certain cabinets or certain kitchen countertops or certain floors or certain colors for her house. Like this lady made sure that she was, you know, the main character without even trying. Like, she was always the main character. And I think that because of that, a lot of people envied her or a lot of people um tried to like step into her shoes, but they were just too big for them. Um and I don't say this with like any malicious intent or I don't say this with like cockiness. It's more of like, damn, that was my mother, like damn, like I hope I can one day live up to her expectations. I know that she always wanted us, her kids, to be happy, and be at peace, not to worry about things and learn to forgive. So many people did her dirty. So many people like stole from her. So many people like took advantage of her. And she would still forgive them. And I I know that I couldn't have wished for a better mother than who God chose for me as a mother. You know, she loved, loved, loved going to the rivers. She loved the water. She was just, she was a money magnet. Like anything she put her mind, her heart into, she would do and she would get. Like, I remember back home, they have the rivers and people sell food out there for like the people that come and visit and stuff. And like there was other vendors, but they would always go to her for specific dishes, um, or the way she would cook. Like my mom had a very, very good hand for cooking. And I know, you know what? I'm not the greatest cook, but I try. I try. But to be able to find my mom's sazon, like they say it, is a little bit hard, you know? Um, this lady, she one day like she just got a crazy idea of building a freaking pool in her front yard, and she ended up doing it. Like just because she was bored or just because a random thought came to her head, like that's what she wanted to do and that's what she did. You know, um the way she would dance, like it was like people knew she was there dancing, and she would attract more people to come in and dance. When my mom would throw parties, like it was not like just like, oh, vamos a invitar a la vecina, 2, 3 people. No, like this lady, when she threw a party, there was like que carnitas, que mole, que pozole, and like a whole bunch of dishes at one party. Um, Beer hasta morir. Like she didn't know what little meant. To her, little was like 30, 40 people. Um, she was always big on parties, on the way she threw parties. She she made sure that her family was always well taken care of. Um, she was the first one to cross the border and bring all her family with her. My grandparents, my aunts, uncles, cousins, and everybody that she loved. My mom was a huge hustler. She knew how to make money. Maybe even just by selling rocks. Like that lady could sell you anything. Like even if it was just a simple feather, she knew how to sell it to you. Because she had the charisma. Because she had the aura. Because she wasn't afraid. And I think that's something that I always saw in my mom, that she was never afraid of anything, not afraid of life, not afraid of anyone, not afraid of people, I think the only thing she was afraid of, or human or person or anything, was God. But she always made sure to take care of her people. She never left anybody behind. There was one time where this lady disrespected her. Mind you, we're in the centro. This is like, I don't know if you guys know, but back home, you know how you go to the centro, to the mercado to buy, your fruits, vegetables, and stuff, where all the vendors are. This lady's like had been talking crap about my mom, like really bad crap. Um, and she had like tried to call the cops on her or whatever, because she envied my mom. Because I don't remember what was the exact situation, but I remember in front of the freaking cops, in front of like the city hall of the town where we lived, she beat the lady up, and she didn't give a fuck. Like right in front of the cops, and she was like, "Okay, bitch, now you can run your mouth." And I was just like, I was scared. I was scared because that lady had hats. There was one time where I crossed the line with my mom, and she whooped my ass. Like when I tell you she whooped my ass, she whooped my ass. Not with a belt, not with like anything. She literally, with her closed fist, beat my ass. She left me a purple eye. She popped my lip. And I don't know what else she did to me, but that lady whooped my ass. And I think ever since then, I was like, you know what? I'ma just tone it down. I'ma just calm the fuck down. I'ma like But there's so many stories. She taught me how to use a rifle. You know, um, she taught me how to echar tortillas, cook tortillas. Um, she would teach me how to cook, but my mom didn't have a lot of patience in that sense when it came to cooking. She didn't like nobody touching like her seasonings or her stuff, so it was kind of a little bit hard situation. I just had to kind of see, and everything she would just eyeball it. Like for her favorite word was like tanteale. Don't expect me to give you exact measurements. You have to feel it. You have to see it. You have to like tantearle. You have to know what is right and what is wrong. And it's like, Señora, I've never done this in my life. But I guess that's how we learn in a sense. Um, she was the life of the party, honestly. My mom was not a big drinker, but when she would drink, like she was a slow drinker, cause she would say like tranquilos y nos amanecemos, which basically translates to slowly and we'll be able to how do you say it? Last all night in a sense. She hated being rushed. One thing for sure, my mom hated being rushed. Um, she was a firecracker. She was a big firecracker. My mom was the type of people that like she will whoop ass first and then ask questions. Um, she was very, very explosive. When things didn't go her way or like when she knew that something wasn't right or when somebody would go against her word, she would like um go off because she expected better. She knew better and she expected better. I remember she would take me to like these other little pueblitos, other little towns around that would be like 2-3 hours away from our hometown. And she loved to buy like decorations for the house, mugs, plates. Mind you, this lady was one single lady living in her house and maybe her other employees, but I want to say she had maybe like 4 employees, 5 employees. Um, but she would like to buy so many things. Like she had 30 people living in her house. And it was just sometimes like, Señora, like, who are you buying all these things for? And she would just say like, shut up. They're my things. And I would just be like, okay, I guess. Um, my mom, she always loved to overstack. I don't know if it's every parent, but my mom loved to overstack. Like she couldn't buy like 1 little kilo of beans or 1 little kilo of rice. Like this lady would buy 20 kilos and then at the end of the month she would be like giving it away because so it wouldn't go bad or like she would cook like if she were cooking for like 30 people almost every day. And it was just like, señora, ¿a quién le vamos a dar la comida? Se va a echar a perder. But then she's like, shut up. We can give to your grandma, to your nieces, nephews, to everybody. It doesn't matter. And I would just like be like, okay. I then noticed a lot of people started to look for her out of benefit, maybe because they needed money, maybe because they needed something off of her. My mom was never the type of person to go and look for people. My mom never, she didn't really like to visit people. She always stayed at home. And for some reason, there was always people at her house. Always. Every single day, there was people always in her house. Whether they were visiting or asking for a favor or whatever the case was. And I think that's why I kind of like it made me kind of like, stay away from a lot of people too because I was like, um, sometimes people just want to see what they benefit out of you? Nowadays it's hard to build those good friendships, relationships with people, and I think that's something, that has been taught to me or I have seen it myself. Sometimes it's good to kind of step back and see who truly is there for you and see who truly loves you or who truly will, you know, be there for you when you're having or going through hard times. I feel like so many people nowadays it's just a little bit hard to trust. I for a really long time I had like a really bad attitude problem. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I do catch an attitude here and there too. But she would always tell me like change your attitude, change the way of being, like stop being so rude to people. Cuz I would come off very strong or very like rude at times, and it was not because I was mad. Sometimes I would just get so defensive. Um and I would come off like an asshole. And she would always tell me like change your way of being. Like why are you mad all the time? Like why are you being like this? Like I'm not like that. Like why are you like that? And again, I think it was because of the people that I grew up around. I don't think I know it's because of the people I grew up around, but little by little I started kind of, shedding those layers off. Took me a while. For me, the first year of my mom's death, it was very, very hard. I I I completely lost my shit. I was just like a ticking bomb. At any moment, I would just snap. At any moment, I would just like not give a fuck. Like there was a time where at work I did something crazy, and this was after my mom passed away. Um, I ended up beating up this lady because she was giving me like really bad attitude, and like I was already going through a lot. I was up to here. And I get it. Maybe the lady was going through a bad day, whatever. She caught an attitude, but it just made me kind of like snap. It made me snap. And I grabbed her computer and I threw it at her. And I was just like, fuck. After I crashed out, after I did what I did, maybe like 30 minutes later, I kind of realized like, fuck, like, dude, like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, that's not okay. Like, I can't, I can't keep being like this. I can't like, and I got scared of myself. I got scared of my reaction because I didn't know how far my anger could have taken me. And it was just, like I said, I was at a very low point in my life where like, I felt like I had nothing to lose. I had nothing to lose. She was the most valuable thing I had in my life, the most important person that I had. And I felt like at times I had taken her for granted. I felt like I lived with regret for a really long time because even though I knew that I had told her I forgiven her and I had let things go deep down inside, I still held a bit of resentment. And now, where I'm at this point in my life where I'm at now, I realized that she didn't owe me shit. She did enough with giving me birth. She fought for me. And I've learned to forgive myself as well. I think Mostly because I wasn't supposed to be born, you know? One story that I have heard, when my mom was pregnant of me, my heart, my lungs weren't developing properly, and she stayed in the hospital for most of her pregnancy with me, and she fought for me, you know? She tried her best to keep me alive, and, like, I took it for granted for a really long time. The second year for me, I still cried. I still broke down. I let go of the anger, and it was just so much sadness, so much emptiness. And then I know that God and her sent us a baby to our family, and I think that that's what brought life back into our family, life back into me. It gave me back that spark that I needed. I I felt empty for a really long time, you know? I felt empty, I felt lost, and I feel that that baby brought purpose back into my life. And I couldn't have been more grateful for my family and my siblings and their support and their love, you know? I think my sister played a big part in my healing as well, because she was destroyed herself, you know? Because my mom was her best friend. And she still pushed me to do better. She still pushed me to change. She still pushed me to keep going while still being broken, while still hurting. And she never let me go. She never let me drown. My brother and my sister-in-law, they would try and take me out and, you know, kind of push me to do things. And I will forever be grateful for that. They would try and do little things or make me laugh or, you know, kind of forget in those moments that I was in pain while they were in pain. My oldest sister, she was more of a, her love is a bit more silent. She's more of a loving person. She's not very much of a talkative person, but she's more of an affectionate person. And seeing her after my mom passed away, because we hadn't talked for a really long time, was also very healing. Her husband, and her kids, like, my sister, my oldest sister probably didn't have much to offer, but her love and support was always there. And I love each and every one of my siblings and my sister-in-law and my nieces and nephews. And I realized that I still had those good people around me, you know, to keep me up. Coming closer to the third year, I gained a lot, but I also lost a lot. I've learned a lot of lessons. Good people have came into my life, bad people have came into my life and have left, you know, and I'm grateful for it all. Now I try not to hold as much resentment towards anybody. When somebody does something to me, I try to see it as like, it's hurtful in the beginning. I'm not going to say it's not. And it hurts because it's like, I wouldn't have expected that from you, you know? But then again, it's like, okay, it happened. It is what it is. And that's just where their story in your life ends. And we can't really do much about it. We just gotta learn to let go and forgive. This year, I think I have found a bit more of peace. It still hurts that my mom is gone because sometimes I feel like I catch myself wanting to call her or text her, but then I gotta remember, okay, wait, hold up. Nobody's gonna reply. Nobody's gonna answer. And that still makes it hard, you know? There's times where I could be super excited, super happy. And I just want to call my mom and tell her, like, hey, mom, guess what happened? Or funny things that happened to me. Or stories that I see that I would have wanted my mom to know about. And it kind of catches me off guard where it's like, fuck, señora, like, I just wish I could have seen your reaction to this, you know? Like, I know in my mind what something she would have said. And, or something she would have, but then again, it's not like I can't see her actual reaction, you know? I've learned to make peace with every situation, whether it's good or bad. Um, I've learned to make peace with every situation, whether it's good or bad. And, you know, someday I hope I make my mom proud of where I am in life and who I have became or who I am becoming. Sometimes I want to talk about my mom, but then again, I don't want to talk about my mom because I feel like it's a burden on other people. Maybe I don't want to talk about it too much because it's like, fuck, like, okay, they heard this story. But then again, it's like, it's my story, you know? I don't know if there's another lifetime after this one. I don't know if we come back to Earth after death, maybe in another body, another human, a different face, a different gender, whatever the case is. I just hope that we do come back together someday. And overall, I feel like I've learned to forgive my mom, myself, you know, and even my dad. I don't have a relationship with him, but I've learned to forgive him. I think of it as maybe he wasn't taught better. Maybe he wasn't loved properly. Maybe he's not at peace himself, but I wish him the best. And with my mom, I know that she made a lot of mistakes in life, but I'm no one to judge her. I think we're never the ones to judge our parents. They did what they could and they did their best at how they thought it was supposed to be because no one ever taught them to be parents. But I'm sure that they tried their best to cut those chains and not repeat the same patterns as their parents or not repeat the same patterns that they went through as kids, you know. And I just want to say thank you guys for listening. I know I've been a little MIA. I will start to try and get back on track. I'm sorry. And If you guys ever want to join a podcast, talk about your story, I'm so open to anything, whether if it's of love, relationships, if it's, friendship, anything you guys want to talk about. I'm always open. Like, I would want to grow my podcast and have people come and join and be able to talk about their testimonies or their life or their experiences. And I'm very excited to, you know, to continue growing my platform. And I hope that one day I can be able to touch people's hearts, and maybe help them with the silent battles that they're going through, or give them a consejo, or be there for them. I'm open to any possibility, and I leave it onto the universe and to God's hands. And with that, thank you guys so much for being here with me. Again, this is La Verdad Sana podcast, and I am your host, Nicole Diaz.